If you grew up in the 1960s, you knew there were certain rules everyone followed, even if no one ever said them out loud. These weren't the rules you'd find written in a book or posted on a wall, but the kind of social expectations that shaped daily life. For example, when you visited someone's home, you always took off your hat at the door, especially if you were a male. It was considered a sign of respect, and just like saying please and thank you without being reminded. Neighbors looked out for each other's kids, and that meant you were expected to behave the same way no matter whose yard or porch you were on. If Mrs. Johnson from next door told you to stop roughhousing, you stopped, because you knew she'd tell your mother, and no one wanted to deal with that. You also didn't call adults by their first names. It was always Mr., Mrs., or Miss, and that little bit of formality wasn't optional. There was an unwritten rule about the dinner table, too. You ate what was served. You didn't complain, and you definitely didn't ask for something else. Finishing your plate was a sign of good manners, and if you were lucky enough to have dessert, you waited to be offered. You didn't just help yourself. On the street, you waved to people you knew, or even people you didn't. Small town or big city, it was common courtesy to acknowledge your neighbors. And if someone was carrying a heavy bag or pushing a stroller, you were expected to hold the door open without being asked. Even in school, there were social rules that teachers didn't have to explain. You stood in line quietly, stood up when a teacher entered the room, and if you got called on, you answered respectfully. Talking back or being smart-mouthed wasn't tolerated, and the whole class understood that. These unwritten rules shaped how people interacted, and while they might feel old-fashioned now, they gave a sense of structure to everyday life. Looking back, it's funny how we all just knew what was expected, not because someone drilled it into us, but because it was simply part of growing up in that era.